At our baptism, we're all made priest, prophet, and king. However, there are a few special people who set apart themselves to carry out the work of God and serve Him as priests, looking after His flock. So today on Catholic Faith Forum, we'll be discussing who is a Catholic priest. Welcome to Catholic Faith Forum. I'm your host, May. When we come back, we'll dive into the gist of the day. Stay with us. This is Catholic Faith Forum. I'm May, and today we're going to be answering the question, who is a Catholic priest? Well, I have two fathers in the house. And in fact, I'm so special because they are both Father Francis. But let me introduce them. Our guests today are Reverend Father Francis Adedara, a priest of the Catholic Diocese of Ilorin, and a lecturer at the Seminary of St. Peter and Paul and the Dominican Institute, Ibadan. And we also have Reverend Father Francis Chiadi, OP, a member of staff, Dominican University. Welcome, fathers.
Thank you.
Why are you sounding so calm and so welcome, fathers.
Sure.
I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so what is priesthood? Father?
For me, priesthood is a sacred ministry ordained by God by that very fact. And those who exercise this office exercise it because they have been set apart to offer sacrifice for salvation. In a simple word, you say they are the anointed ones.
I like that. Father, you have anything to add?
Oh, thank you very much, May, for having me on the program. And to our viewers, I say hello to you. Speaking about the priesthood, we have to talk about it in the context of who we are as Catholic priests. You know, remember that you can speak of the priesthood in so many different settings and religions.
Yes.
Father Chiadi has given you what is fundamental to the Christian priesthood. But in our own very context as Catholic priests, we do have a simple definition of what the priesthood is. It is actually a sacrament of the new law, and it was instituted by Christ at the Last Supper. And at that Last Supper, he conferred on men or certain persons, as you know the story very well,
yes,
the power of consecrating and also offering the body and blood of Christ, and also the power of remitting and also, if you like, retrieving or retracting sins. And so the two contexts in which we speak of the Catholic priesthood is the offering, which is the offering of the sacrifice, and then also the power to forgive sins. And now men are called to this in the teaching of the church and within the context of the apostles who were ordained at that particular time.
Yeah, the first one.
So there's going to be that debate about did Christ actually ordain this group of 12? And,
yes.
Yeah, but don't forget that within the context of instituting the Eucharist, there's also the context of ordaining priests who are to offer the Eucharist. So you cannot have a separation between the priesthood and the Eucharist. So when we are speaking of the priesthood within our own very context, then we look at it from that background. And so it goes back to Christ himself. Even though, like you said in your intro, there is a distinction that is made between what we call the common priesthood of the lay faithful and the ministerial priesthood. But we all do share in the priesthood of Christ in our own different callings. And so I think generally, yes, and fundamental to what Father Chiadi said, it is a call and it is a gift.
Call and a gift. Okay, like nice answers. Okay, so can anybody become a priest?
Well, within our own tradition, anyone who is a man and who is baptized can be a priest. Okay. But it's not just going to be sufficient to say, well, I'm a man and I'm baptized. there are going to be other factors that will actually lead to one becoming a priest.
Such
And
as?
that will involve the whole, first of all, there is a call from God. Okay. And how do you know you have that call? It has to go through a whole process of discernment. And there's a reason why you have the need to go through the formation, the formative years, for preparing you for the Catholic priesthood. And so, yes, anyone who is a Catholic, who is baptized a man, can be a priest, but then he has to undergo those formative years.
So he has to be called and he has to go through.
Yes, exactly, and preparing for the priesthood in that regard.
Okay, Father Chiadi, do you want to add anything before I ask you my next question?
Yes, the point he made is very clear, that for you to respond, that means there is a call. So it's not just sufficient that you are a man and you are baptized. And ordinarily, you are not just admitted into the seminary because of baptism alone. Okay. You are supposed to have fulfilled the whole process of Christian initiation. That means you must be a communicant and also confirmed.
Okay, so why aren't there female priests?
Well, it's interesting that for you to ask that question, you need to ask more basic question, which is, why do we have priests in the first place? Okay. It is primarily for the salvation of souls. And the target for all Christians is holiness of life. That you're a priest or you are not a priest is not a guarantee you will get to the target. True. So that helps you to know that one can attain fulfillment even without becoming a priest. Mm-hmm. But there are some understanding that will help you have that clear knowledge that women cannot become priests. And it is not a disadvantage.
Can you shed more light on that?
For instance, like he said in the beginning, the institution of the Eucharist gives basis for the priesthood of Christ. Because that there will be sacrifice for you to become a priest. So Christ established the sacrifice and at the same time established the priesthood. And in that context, he did it with men. Okay. So the example of Christ is something we are imitating. The priesthood, mind you, is the priesthood of Christ. We are only participating in his priesthood. Yeah. So his own life as a man and his own example provides the basis. And again, the apostolic tradition shows that there is uninterrupted succession in the ordination of men. So there is no women ordination in our history and in our tradition. So that is what is handed down to us, and that is what we follow. Following from Christ through the apostle till now.
Okay, Father Adedara, priesthood is a vocation. So are there other vocations in the church aside from priesthood?
Yes, before I answer your question directly, I'll probably like to
chip in a little bit.
A little bit
Go on.
In regards to women ordination. I think it is very important that our viewers have an understanding of how it is that the church functions. The church is actually a sacrament of salvation to the world. And whatever it is that we do in church is not on the basis of how it is that the society determines, but rather that the church becomes prophetic to the world. And so the whole issue of women rights and women things can be thrown out there, and it can actually come into the church. And if care is not taken, we are speaking about not just human but also woman. The right of women within the context of how the society handles it and takes that narrative. Now, the speech about God, is not a speech that is determined by man. Rather, it is a speech about God is always in response to a speech that God Himself, what God Himself has said. Yes. Now, with regards to why there are no
female priests.
Well, first of all, ordination is a means by which men are, or certain persons are called to be part of what we call the three orders, or whether the episcopacy or the presbyterium, and then of course the diaconate. Now, it has been in the teaching of the church, whether it is by way of the catechism of the church or the tradition of the church, that there are no women priests. Again, it is just because it goes back to Christ himself. It is in fidelity to what Christ did and what Christ instituted. The College of the 12 were those who were ordained as priests, if you like, at the time. And they then also chose their own successors. So in other words, ordination is by way of laying on of hands, which has come down to us by tradition. All right. Now, if you also look at some recent teachings of the church, whether it is by way of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, that have also emphasized that there are no women priests in the church, or even that particular apostolic exhortation by John Paul II, I think it's Ordinatio Sacerdotalis, where he says that, well, you know, the church does not have the authority to ordain women. And the church not having the authority to ordain women is, again, in fidelity to what Christ did, who instituted the priesthood. But are we then saying that the church excludes women from the priesthood? No, that's not what the church does. The church is not excluding women from the priesthood, but that the church has no authority
to ordain them,
women, because you have to get our authority from Christ himself, who instituted the priesthood.
And we're following his example.
Exactly. So if you look at it in that way, then it's not a question of whether women are denied certain rights. By the way, in all of the sacraments, the church teaches that we have rights to the sacrament, but there's only one sacrament that you do not have any right to, and that's ordination. Even men do not have right to ordination. And if you go back to what is written in the letter to the Hebrews chapter 5, I think it's verse 4, no one takes this on upon himself, but each one is called as Aaron was. So it is a gift, all right? So that's by the way. But then, I haven't said that. Does that then mean that women don't have a role to play in the church? They do have a role to play in the church. And in fact, so many documents of the church have emphasized and stressed the dignity of women in the church. And we do have our own specific roles to play in response. Women minister to Christ. Women ministered and worked with the apostles and the apostolic father and so on and so forth. Even if you go back to history, you probably also will have heard about even some deaconesses.
Yes, true.
And so on and so forth. So, yes, it is not that the church denies women, the right to the priesthood, if you like, but it's just the church does not have
the authority to ordain them.
Women. And it is a teaching that, has been said to be definitive. In other words, it belongs to the deposit of faith that we accept that. Now, I've spoken so much about women ordination.
So, other vocation.
I know you asked me the question about
yes, I did.
Are there other vocation? Anyway, according to the teaching of the church, vocation is a call. Vocatio, from vocare, it's a call. But fundamentally, the church teaches that there is a call to holiness. So whatever it is, whatever call you have, it is a call to holiness. So fundamentally, our Christian calling is a call to holiness. But there's also some specific distinct life that you live in order that you respond to this call to holiness.
Okay.
And part of it is, of course, the vocation to the priesthood. And of course, we are talking about the priesthood. Of course, don't forget that Father Chiadi is a priest. But he's also a religious. There's also the vocation to the religious life. There are all kinds of distinct and particular life within the tradition and the spirituality of the church that one hears the call of God, and in hearing that call, it is fundamentally a response to holiness. Well, you may also then say that our married people call.
Exactly. Does that leave out the rest of us?
Married people call. Yes, of course, married people are called. In fact, there's also that broad general understanding that we as Christians are called and called to holiness. So within the specificity of their own individual and particular lives, even the laypersons are called. In fact, you can speak within that broad spectrum of a call to the married life.
Nicely
because
put.
Even a call to the married life is a call to holiness. It is not just a social event in one's life. It is actually a sacrament.
The vocation.
Exactly. It is a sacrament, and grace is conferred by the very fact that you receive the sacrament of marriage. It is not just about what happens that day. In fact, sometimes the church ceremony is not even taken too seriously by some.
Yes.
You can see how much time and how much investment
They spend on the wedding itself.
In preparation for the reception and all of that. So it's not all about food and drink. It's about actually a call to holiness. And sometimes I joke with people and say, well, sometimes your spouse is probably your ticket to heaven. How you help each other to grow in holiness is also going to be a responsibility that is placed on you within the married life.
Oh, interesting.
Well, there's this general belief that they are very wealthy people. I've had that belief, like priests are very wealthy people. Like they own like the best cars around. So that's what for me, that's what I mean.
I'm very, very particularly in disagreement with the conception that priests have money, because being a priest means that you give your life in selfless service. It's a life of sacrifice. And a life of sacrifice without sacrifice is a contradiction. So being a priest means that you are giving yourself up to God, and giving your everything totally goes to God. So priests cannot have money. Perhaps you may say it is where the priest finds himself in terms of what the kind of work he does, what he does that you can't bet. As a person, priests don't have money. We are not people that are, giving ourselves to things of the world. No. Of course, the vows of priests, part of it is the voluntary poverty. If I were in the world, if I were to be a regular person, I'd have said I have to work to earn a living. But in the priesthood, you don't earn a living. You give up everything for the sake of the work that has been entrusted to you and for the kingdom of God. So priests, it's a very strong conception that priests have money. No, we don't have money. All we do is just to give ourselves in sacrifice to God and to God's people.
The female religious is a very important aspect of the Catholic apostolates, and of course they are collaborators with the priest. And of course, if you are looking at the rates, the number of priests all over the world, I think we are less than 1 million all over the world, according to the Vatican statistics. So there are so many aspects of our apostolates that we cannot do alone, and we need the female religious to be part of it. And for that reason, they are very, very important part of the mission of Christ on earth in the church. So we cannot underrate their importance in the church.
Women religious in the church, indeed all religious, those that belong to religious institutes, they have the duty, first of all, of bearing witness to the evangelical counsels of poverty, chastity, and obedience in a way that they have taken upon themselves in an eminent kind of way. So whether they are in the hospital or they are in the school, wherever they are found working, they are called to bear witness to the evangelical counsels. It's a basic role. And in that way, bear witness to Christ.
They are signs telling the world of the world we are to live in the next world. A sign that we are living here and now what Jesus told us will be, what heaven will be like. We're not going to get married, we're not going to do so many things, just there to worship, serve God. And if you look at the women religious, a lot of things they do into education, into the media. Communication is my field, into catechesis, medical, different ways, all boils down to catechizing, evangelization, and witnessing for Christ, all about the next world, which is heaven our goal.
Okay, so how do you know when you've been called to a certain vocation? Father Chiadi.
Yes, like individual differences will determine the kind of feedbacks you will get in terms of processing your vocation. your life, if you are attentive to God's call, there are different means of the call. It could be by the way you observe other vocation. You could be as inspired. It could be because you have been introduced to it, or because of your formation, your background. Maybe you went to a certain school, missionary school,
Yes.
or you pass through the catechism classes, and when the vocation is presented to you, you feel that it resonates with you, and then you begin to make reflection on it. Prayerful discernment. You begin to ask more questions from those who have either experienced the life or who are either older than you. They begin to guide you, and they join you in that search to know whether God is calling you. It's not an instant, automatic, a flash, pion, you now get the signal that God is calling you. For some, it may be like that, but for many, it requires a long period of process of processing what you are getting from God as a call, that you are invited to undertake a special commitment.
Okay.
It's a gift and a responsibility at the same time.
Okay, Father Adedara, how does someone become a priest?
Well, how do you become a priest? Well, present yourself. No, like we have some of the points we have raised. Even the last issue that Father Chiadi was talking about. There is a call from God, okay, and there is a response to that call. But it is something also that is you are not alone in this journey. There's a discernment that is not just only you discerning, okay. If you look at the story of little boy Samuel, for example,
Yes.
he had somebody like Eli to guide him and to help him understand, to discern what it is that he's hearing and how it is that he's responding to that call. And so to be a priest, part of the process, as we have said earlier on, is to go through that process of discernment, which takes place in the house of formation, whether by way of the religious house of formation with regards to people like Father Chiadi, or the seminary with regards to people like us. And so you go through all of that process of discernment and formation in the seminary, where you study philosophy. In our own case, you study theology, and of course we also go through the different programs of formation for the priesthood. Now, in this program of formation for the priesthood, there are four main areas that are highlighted. There is the what you call the human formation. To me, I think it is fundamental to all of the area or the different areas of formation, because the human formation actually begins from home, from your family, the little things that you were taught, the love
things
of
you
God.
learn from home.
Exactly, how to build your life on the true love of God and in responding to God. And it is on that then the intellectual formation, the spiritual formation, and the pastoral formation are built. See that these are the four different areas of formation that are highlighted as you make, progress in your formative years, preparing for the priesthood. And after you've gone through all of that, and the people concerned with your formation and your training bear witness to the fact that you've gone through it faithfully, and that you are ready, and will recognize, and by the help of God, will recognize that you have what it takes in order that for you to be promoted to the priesthood. Then you are promoted. And even though you've received certain, at different levels, you receive what we call different ministries. But at the end of the day, you get ordained as a deacon, and then you get ordained as a priest. It takes years to do all of this.
It takes a long time,
Yes.
a really long time. It's all that education necessary, because it takes quite a while to become a priest.
Yeah, it's very important. You don't remember that the priesthood is a gift from Christ. Okay?
Yes.
And in responding to that gift, you cannot take it with levity. It has to be given all of the seriousness that it deserves. And part of the seriousness that it deserves is that you must engage in that intellectual formation. There were days when priests were said to be, there were two groups of people that were called learned people, priests and lawyers. as a priest, you are expected to like almost know everything. People will come to you with all kinds of questions, but more importantly, the things about the mysteries of God are not to be taken lightly, and so you have to give it the deserved intellectual information that is required for you to prepare. It's a mystery that is larger than all of us, and so we do have to prepare for that
properly.
Adequately, yeah.
Okay, so what are some of the qualities that a priest should possess?
Well, like you in your earlier question, you asked about the reason for the length of years during formation. It's very important we know that the dignity of priesthood takes it apart from any other dignities around. And that is why that preparation and nurturing is necessary. So in the process of that formation, the basic formation, it's expected that you get yourself acquainted with certain things, and then the qualities that are expected of you to polish it. These qualities does not qualify you as such, because God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. Okay. So in a way, yes, these qualities are good, and you are to build on them, because grace builds on nature. The ordination you are going to receive as a gift is going to build on what you already have, which is valuable. He said the basic for formation begins with the human formation, which you started from when you are already in the family. So as you are growing, it's expected that you are going to be a man of integrity. That is a primary quality. You must be a man of faith, prayerfulness. These are some of the essential things you are expected to imbibe and cultivate. You must be reliable. Like you said, a lot of people are going to come to you dependable and resourceful, because you are going to be in a very delicate assignment, and sometimes all the resources will not be provided.
Yes.
So you are expected to make the optimum use of the opportunity to minister to God's people. So you don't give excuses. You have to put your hand to the plow and do the work.
Okay. I have so many questions I want to ask about the priesthood, but we don't have so much time. So let me just ask this last question. Do priests get paid?
I will begin by asking you to know that there is a difference between benefit and profit.
Okay.
In life, a lot of things are profit-oriented, but priesthood is not. But that doesn't mean it's not beneficial. The work that a priest does is very valuable. And it's expected that there will be a certain way people appreciate this, but not in terms of transactional, as if it's profit-oriented. So you don't say how much is the sacrament so that you can bargain it, or you can. So the basic thing is to know that the work that you are being entrusted to is a great responsibility that is valuable and beneficial to many. When we say Catholic priesthood, there is another reading to it. Catholic there does not mean a sect. It can mean universal. Meaning that your job or your duty, responsibility is unrestricted.
It's to everybody.
Not only to the members of the church, but even beyond. So, but you are to do your work. Your pay is not calculated in terms of regular currencies. Okay. Your reward is in heaven. But the people of God are expected to take care of their ministers. Okay. So, but not by way of transaction of usual market transaction.
You give me something and I pay you. So, Father, do you want to add anything?
Oh well, you know, on a very light mode. Don't they say that a teacher's reward is in heaven? Maybe a priest is also. I mean, it's more like a teacher too. Maybe the reward is in heaven. But on a more serious note, there is no human being who does not have the great need to be maintained, and the welfare of people is always. But in our own context, it is a call that you are responding to. The priesthood is not a profession, it's not a job that you are paid for. I do know that different places have different ways of maintaining their priests. Even what you see that is obtainable in a place like America cannot even be called salary or payment, but even though they are paid some regular fixed amount in certain organizations. But in our own context here in Nigeria, we do not have what we call salary or pay. Actually, priests are given stipends. Father Chiadi is probably receiving, I'm sure he won't tell you the amount of money he receives as stipend, because it's going to be so ridiculous. How does he
survive?
On that, but his own case is even a little bit different, because it's within a religious community where they do everything in common. But for also a diocesan priest, there are certain ways of maintaining you, which will be determined by the diocese, whether it is by way of having some fixed or by way of you are entitled to a certain amount of money within a period of time to maintain yourself, even though the church actually maintains you. That's the way it works. So in terms of pay as a remuneration, we do not have that for priests. And again, like you said, too, the people of God like to take care of their own priests, and we depend on people like you to take care of when you become a very rich person.
Amen. Thank you very much, fathers. It certainly isn't easy to become a priest, and it's a vocation you shouldn't take lightly. So for all of you who have been called to priesthood, please heed the call. And for the rest of us, we hope we'll be able to answer some questions you may have about priesthood. Now let's go to Judith and Collins for today's episode of Know Your Faith. Stay with us.
Welcome to Know Your Faith series. I am Collins.
And I am Judith.
Today we'll be discussing a very, very important question, which is, can a Catholic get married to someone who has been previously divorced?
According to the Catholic Church, once you are wedded, it is until death, seeing that the Church encourages the union of one man to a woman. Also, it is a sacrament of the Church, and it cannot be broken.
So this means that you actually have to be very careful when choosing that life partner. Now, however, there are some cases where there may have been lies or deceits, or one is being forced into marriage. Now, such a marriage may be granted an annulment by the Church.
Annulment?
Yes, Judith, annulment.
So you mean the Church grants annulment and not divorce?
The Church does not encourage divorce in any form, okay? So the Church says no to divorce, because the only thing that can terminate a validly contracted marriage is death.
So what about separation?
Separation is totally different from divorce. Okay, separation is just a situation where the Church grants a validly married couple permission to live separately from each other, but they cannot be remarried.
Oh yes. An annulment is a process whereby a marriage is determined whether or not it is valid. It is not a Catholic divorce process, and if when granted, it means the marriage never took place in the first place. So the contracting parties are allowed to marry, provided the ties from the previous union is broken.
Yes, so also in cases where one has been married outside the Catholic Church under certain unfavorable circumstances, such a person can be granted an annulment of the marriage, provided that there are no longer ties and the marriage has not been consummated.
So, a Catholic cannot marry someone who is divorced, but under certain conditions can marry someone whose marriage has been annulled by the Church.
All right, so that's it for today's show, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Please feel free to like, comment, and share. Till next time,
be bold, be Catholic.
Thanks, guys. Till next time, we hope to see you next time. So, Father Francis Chiadi and Father Francis Adedara, thank you so much for being with us on the show.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed yourselves. We hope you're able to get all your opinions out there.
No problem. It's a entire job. That's what we do.
Thank you. Hope we invite you again next time and you will come and visit us.
Sure.
Okay. So for questions, suggestions, inquiries, hit us up on our social media platforms at CFF on TV across our social media platforms. And also follow our YouTube channel at Dominican Media Presents for all episodes of the show, and you'll definitely have an amazing time. Till next time, keep being saints in jeans and shirts.